The Untouchable, Revenge, the Unbreakable Chain of Karma.
Today, we're going to talk about a story that is incredibly dramatic. It has revenge, it has justice, but more importantly, it reveals the invisible yet omnipresent law of cause and effect karma. And you would never guess the spark that started this entire saga was just a single man gun, the invisible Terra. Imagine a king with immense power. You'd think he'd live a peaceful life. Right, far from it. Inside his own palace, he was being tormented daily by an invisible enemy. It makes you wonder, what kind of hatred, what kind of grudge could be so powerful that a person's resentment turns into an invisible shadow, haunting a king every single day? Despite his vast power, the king was completely helpless. He lived in constant terror. Imagine hearing someone cursing and threatening you every day, even feeling the sting of an invisible whip on your skin, but you can't see who is doing it. How terrifying is that? Then, that invisible voice gave the king an ultimatum, a short sentence that declared the date of his death. It was clear from those words that this was all because the king had once done something utterly horrific. A spark in the mango grove. Let's rewind time to see how this bone-chilling revenge began. The source, just a few pieces of fruit. It started when a neighboring country sent some exquisite mangoes as a gift. The king loved them so much that he started his own grove and hired people from the lowest social class, the Untouchables, to guard it. One day, the guards and their families couldn't resist and ate some of the mangoes. When the king found out, he went into a blind rage. He saw it as a personal betrayal. In a shocking act of disproportionate cruelty, he ordered his men to set fire to the entire village of the Untouchables, burning men, women, the elderly, and children alive. The lone survivor. The aftermath was a wasteland. Only one person survived because he happened to be away studying. And what was he studying? The art of invisibility. Imagine the scene. He returns home full of hope, only to find his entire world, his family, his friends, turned into scorched earth and ash. In that moment, the fires of revenge were ignited in his heart. As the king faced these supernatural threats, his armies were useless. Finally, he sought help beyond the mortal realm. His ministers advised him, "Your Majesty, we cannot fight supernatural powers. You must seek the help of a holy man." They led him to the venerable Dina, an arhat who had already attained enlightenment. Two paths, revenge versus compassion. Here, two completely different paths emerged. The path of revenge, driven by anger. The goal was to kill the king. But by choosing an eye for an eye, the survivor was becoming a prisoner of his own hatred. The cycle of pain would simply continue forever.
The path of Dharma, represented by the Arhat. This path doesn't use violence. It uses compassion to dissolve hatred, extinguishing the fire at its source and breaking the cycle of suffering. When the survivor rushed in to settle the score with the king, he encountered Venerable Dhyana. The monk did nothing. He didn't fight him or scold him. He simply sat there in silence. Yet, the monk's aura of pure compassion caused the survivor's invisibility spell to fail. He was exposed. More incredibly, the raging fire of hatred in his heart instantly went quiet. The ultimate transformation. When intense hatred meets infinite compassion, what happens? The transformation was deep, rapid, and total, guided by the venerable. The survivor heard the Dharma and soon attained the first stage of enlightenment, Sotapanna. He realized that revenge sells nothing. He let go of his grudge, decided to ordain as a monk, and practiced with such diligence that he eventually became an arhat himself, reaching the same state as his teacher. The ancient roots of karma. You might wonder, why such an extreme life? The Buddha's disciples were also puzzled. They asked the Buddha how one person could have such a polar opposite destiny. First seeing his whole clan wiped out, then nearly becoming a murderer, yet finally attaining enlightenment so quickly. The Buddha revealed a secret spanning many lifetimes. The seed of virtue, 91 eons ago. This man was also an untouchable. He was saved by the Buddha of that time, and out of gratitude, he made a great vow. I wish to practice and become an arhat in the future. The seed of evil. In a more recent life, during the time of Kassapa Buddha, he was a monk. However, out of arrogance and anger, he insulted other monks by calling them untouchables. The accounts of karma are precise. Because he used a slur to insult others, he had to endure 500 lifetimes being born as an untouchable. But because his ancient vow was sincere, that power crossed the eons to guide him toward ultimate liberation in this lifetime. Reflection. What can we learn from this winding journey? The core truth is what the Master always says: karma is never hollow. The cause you plant determines the fruit you harvest. There are no discounts and no errors. First, our every word, action, and even a single thought is a seed for our future. Second, while we must face the consequences of our mistakes, a powerful, positive vow can transcend lifetimes. Third, through wisdom and practice, we have the power to transform the seeds of the past, turning the deepest pain into the catalyst for liberation. This ancient story leaves us with a question. Everything we do and say today is planting a seed for our tomorrow. So, ask yourself, what kind of flowers do you want to see blooming in your future?